promoting justice, liberation, and self-determination for all peoples of our world. These beliefs call us to advocate for the Palestinian people. Our views are not based on nationalism, religion, or ideology, but are grounded in the principles of international law, human rights, and basic standards of justice. Thus, just as we oppose the policies that sustain the systemic oppression of the Palestinian people, we condemn all policies and actions by individuals, organizations, and states which serve to discriminate against any group of people on the basis of religion, ethnicity, heritage. And we reject all forms of hatred. The generations-long occupation and subjugation of the Palestinian people, driven by the apartheid policies of the State of Israel, is causing widespread damage and destruction to all people who live in this land, and must be immediately brought to an end. SJP is working to bring awareness of this and other issues to our community and raise the academic discourse to a level appropriate to our surroundings. We will continue working to improve the conditions of all who are denied freedom, justice, and dignity through advocacy and action. I'd just like to point out that I believe there are still books for sale if they have not sold out already in the front lobby, and as well as a sign-up sheet if you would like to become a member of SJB or just want to learn more information. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Loki.
Thank you very much. I won't take up too much of your time. Today, we are here to not only speak about what they call Operation Cast Lead, or what humanity calls a massacre of 1,400 people, but we are also here to discuss, just as importantly, if not more, the ongoing siege, which is murdering people every single day. This siege is imposed not only by the Israeli government, but by the Egyptian government, and also, importantly, by extension, the United States government. So I would urge everybody who comes today to not just read Norman's book, to not just read other important books, but to actually travel if you can. If you have a United States passport, use that passport and go there and see the reality on the ground, because that is more important than anything else. And also, on top of that, I would like to say, as someone myself who has traveled to the West Bank and to Gaza, someone who has a British passport, it was my duty as somebody who lives in the land of the Balfour Declaration, a declaration which is largely responsible for the plight of the Palestinian people, but also is important as US citizens with US passports to travel there and see how your taxes are spent. See what carnage the bombs which read "Made in the USA" have caused for human beings. That's the most important thing. And one thing I'd also like to say is that there is not a line dividing Muslim from Jewish opinion, or a line dividing Arab from Jewish opinion, or even a line dividing Israeli from Palestinian opinion. There is only one line, and that line is a line between those who want equality for all and those who want supremacy for some. That is the difference. You need to choose which side of the line you stand on. Thank you very much. Okay, I forgot to do the most important thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know what you're here to see and who you're here to see. I would like you to lend him your ears and grant him your full attention, because he has a hugely insightful talk to give today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Norman Finkelstein.
Thank you for having me. I'm always bit intimidated by those British accents. Coming from Brooklyn, it's a little bit of an embarrassment to follow a Brit. But I'll do my best. I have to say, I really liked the introductory remarks by the fellow who I've not even met yet, because I think it sets the right tone. But there's only one issue, and that's the issue of justice and what's right and what's wrong. And it happens in this particular conflict. It's not really all that complicated. In fact, it's fairly straightforward. Where is right and where is wrong? The topic I want to speak about this evening is what happened in Gaza between December 27th, 2008 and January 18th, 2009. To some extent, it might seem a curiosity. Why speak about Gaza? Wars come and go in that region of the world with a fairly great frequency and rapidity, and people tend to forget yesterday's murder and mayhem and carnage a few days later. But Gaza has a peculiarity to it, which is it's a ghost that Israel doesn't seem able to bury. It's a shadow which Israel can't seem to evade. It's now nearly a year and a half since what happened in Gaza, and yet it seems like, if not yesterday, not more than a few months ago that it happened. So one question which I think requires some reflection is, what was it about Gaza that made it so unusual? Why won't Gaza go away? Let me begin with some background. How did we come to those 22 days between December 27th and January 18th? Those 22 days that Amnesty International called the days of death and destruction. It's always arbitrary what date you choose to begin with. I'll start with January 2006, when there were parliamentary elections held in the occupied Palestinian territories. And the results of those elections were the Islamic movement, Hamas, ended up the victor. U.S. President, or former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, he was one of the international observers at the elections, and he said they were completely honest and fair. Well, the immediate reaction of the United States and Israel to these completely honest and fair elections were to impose economic sanctions on the Palestinians in Gaza. In June 2007, Israel, the United States, and some elements among the Palestinian Authority attempted a coup to overthrow the legally elected government. In the United States, that's called democracy promotion. The Palestinians, or those living in Gaza, and the leadership were not thrilled by the prospect of this coup. They ended up foiling it, and then they were able to take full control of Gaza. Israel and the United States were not pleased by that outcome, and they tightened the blockade on Gaza, a blockade which now Amnesty International called a flagrant violation of international law. The former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mary Robinson, she journeyed to Gaza during these months, and she said, and now I'm quoting her, Gaza's whole civilization has been destroyed. I'm not exaggerating. In June 2008, Hamas and Israel entered into a ceasefire. Under the terms of the ceasefire, both sides had obligations. On the Palestinian side, they were obliged to cease their rocket and mortar attacks on Israel. On the Israeli side, they were obliged to lift that blockade of Gaza, the blockade which was a flagrant violation of international law, the blockade which was destroying a civilization. According to the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Hamas